Hey, it's Jeff Sauer here, taking you behind the scenes to our process at Jeffalytics. And in this video, I'm going to show you how our social media sharing process works. How do we come up with the messages that we send out to social media? What networks do we choose? How do we get these things scheduled out for the 4 different networks we use, times 90 messages for our 90-day challenge? So of the 360 messages we're sending out to social media audiences alone, how do we get it all scheduled to the point where it runs like clockwork, where we know when the messages are going out there, we know what they're going to say, and we know that the quality is going to be high. So in this behind the scenes look, we're going to show you exactly how our social media process runs and give you some insights, some tools, and even some drawbacks to the approach we've taken and our prognosis for how this is going to shape up as we move forward once we get out of our 90-day challenge, what we learned, and how we're going to make things even better for the rest of 2018. So let's go behind the scenes of our social media sharing process. Now, if you've been following along with our 90-day challenge, you're probably wondering, you have all these videos and blog posts. How do you share them? How do you get them out in front of people so they can actually watch them? How do you make it worth your while to produce all these videos? Here's who our videos go to whenever they are released: blog subscribers, emails, and our social media profiles. And those are the way that we get immediate gratification from whenever we put out a post. And it's working quite well, and people are subscribing to these channels, and we notice that we are getting a large uptick in the amount of engagement we get across all these channels. Plus, there's the slow game that we play, which is to get search traffic and traffic on YouTube. As these things are out there, out in the wild for some time, they're going to start getting traffic over and over again. And so there's the immediate gratification that comes from social and emails and even blog subscribers seeing the new posts come in, and then there's a long-term game that we're playing as well. And we are going to go in depth on email delivery next week. But today, we are going to be showing you our social media sharing process, from developing images to crafting messages to finding an audience who might be interested in these tweets, these posts that we put out there, everything we put on Facebook, Google+, and LinkedIn. So here are the steps that go into our social media sharing process. Step 1, we develop images in Canva. Now, you notice this from one of our previous behind the scenes steps. We love to create these images, and it's pretty straightforward how to create them. We have templates for each day of the week, and then we create those thumbnails and we compress them. We turn them into compressed images that we can then share on social networks, and they don't take up a lot of bandwidth in order to view them, in order to download them. Next, we talk about hashtags. So we brainstorm and we research hashtags that we might want to share these posts over to. And you can do a search function on Twitter, for example, and you can see how many people are using these hashtags and whether it's worthwhile to go after specific hashtags or to go after something broad. And you can research it across all the different social networks. You can see what's happening. RightTag is a third-party tool you can use to see which hashtags get the most interest over time. And finally, there's a reality check to make sure we are going after the right hashtags. Next, you want to do @mentions. And now @mentions are basically putting like an @ sign in somebody's Twitter handle, or in Google+, it would be plus their ID. Now, not everybody's on Google+, but it is something where if people use Google+, they're going to notice it right away, so you can use that as the way to post things out there. Basically, whenever we mention somebody in our videos or in our blog posts or the YouTube channel, we want to give them an @ or a plus, whatever that sign ends up meaning, to let them know that we talked about them. And that is actually how many of these different companies know that we've given a review of their tool, or how we started talking about them, and it starts a conversation. We've actually had people reach out to us and say, hey, we've extended your account because we really liked your review, or hey, we're going to fix these problems that we have in our systems. So we've noticed a pretty significant impact by just using social media @messages or plus tags in order to let somebody know that we're talking about them. Next, you craft the message copy. Now, message copy, we only have so much space, especially for Twitter, but we can put out whatever we want to. We basically just take a consolidated version of one of our emails that we'll send out or some kind of message that goes along with it. It's basically teasing somebody to get them to click through onto our post and to take a look at what we have to offer them. 2 factors that are important here is you need to account for the number of words that you can put into a post, and you also need to accommodate different handles, @sign, for example, versus a plus sign on the different platforms. And you have to draw a balance. You don't want to stuff it with too many hashtags to make it look ridiculous, but you want to make sure that it can be found as well. And once we have all of our assets ready to go, we schedule the posts. Now in Buffer, this is what it looks like to schedule a post. You can see it's pretty straightforward. We choose the time of day we want to publish something, and they will automatically shorten the URLs for us and make it so that it's ready to go, ready to rock on Buffer and share out to our channels, and it happens like clockwork. And here's our posting schedule. We post to Twitter at 8 a.m., Facebook 10 a.m., Google Plus at noon, and LinkedIn at 2 p.m. And these are all in my local central time zone. And Buffer deals with each platform differently, so we'll actually craft a message even if it looks different. For Twitter, for example, we'll put in our hashtags, our @ signs, because that's how Twitter works. We'll do the same thing for Facebook. We'll put our hashtags in there. We add the @ handles in there if we talk about somebody specifically, just to let them know that we are talking about them. You can put your buffer in there for LinkedIn. You can do it for Google+. And there are some quirks and nuances between the different platforms. I'm not going to get into too much detail here, but basically you can put a pretty similar message between the different tools. But for example, they may not use @ signs nearly the same way that they do in other tools. So they might actually do a Twitter search for an @ handle as opposed to @ messaging them on LinkedIn. And so Buffer is not perfect for every type of post. For example, they can't handle @ mentions and hashtags for LinkedIn and Google+. And that's somewhat frustrating because we would just love to have that done for us. Well, what do you do instead? Well, if you're on a post on Google+, you can actually edit it after you've published the article. And so it's still not very bad, and we can still go into Google+, and we can make an edit to the post. And there's actually a workaround that Buffer is about to enable for people to use hashtags. On LinkedIn, there's not really a lot of solutions for editing post published. So you basically have to take what you can get, and we don't have the ability for our company page to tag somebody else's page that we know of right now, especially through Buffer. Now, if we were to do these manually instead of an automated way like Buffer, we'd have the ability to make these changes and to do it right. But for 90 posts, that gets a little bit too ridiculous. And frankly, the timing of the day, it's not very convenient for us to do that. So here's our final thoughts on social sharing and how it works with our process. With the way that we do things right now, we do get decent engagement across our channels. People are liking almost all the posts. We're getting favorites. We're getting all those different shares that are happening that you want. But it's nothing revolutionary. We're not getting the most amazing results that I've ever seen from something. It's good, but it's not revolutionary. And the reason why is because we're choosing consistency over perfection. If we really worked hard to craft each message to the perfect time, to the perfect audience on each platform, then maybe we would get more engagement. But also, we have to do 360 of these messages over the course of 90 days, and so that's just not really going to cut it for us. But one good thing I'll tell you is that we are getting more engagement as the project goes on. So as we do more of these videos, we're getting more likes. Instead of going from 1 or 2 likes per tweet, for example, we're getting 5 to 10 per tweet, and we're getting a lot more shares, a lot more retweets. People are engaging more with our posts. And finally, my favorite part is that this social sharing process will work on everything we do in the future. Anytime we put out new content, we can just use this process, rinse and repeat, and we know it will work, and we know that we can get the job done. It's simple, and simple is good. But there are definitely optimization opportunities that we might pursue in the future, but it would probably be after the 90-day challenge is done. And I'll leave you with this. What's your social process? Let us know on your favorite social network, @Jeffalytics, plus Jeffalytics, facebook.com/Jeffalytics, or linkedin.com/school/Jeffalytics. Let us know what you think, and I'd love to hear from you.